Welcome on in to Pro Football Today. I'm Kevin Walsh. I am with Joe Lisi, and we are set to dive into a major Sunday slate of NFL action. There were big results, Joe, littered throughout this one.
Oh, absolutely. We saw it in the early window. Philadelphia getting back to form, dominating the New York Giants. Baltimore with a must-win over Caleb Williams and Chicago. And then in the late-night action, we saw Green Bay take care of business and get revenge on Aaron Rodgers, and they are the team to beat now potentially in the NFC.
We're going to get into every single one of those games that Joe just mentioned, but let's get right to it with, I think, the biggest result on Sunday, which was the Baltimore Ravens beating the Chicago Bears. The Ravens entered this game without Lamar Jackson for the third straight game, and a loss would have put them at 1-6, considerably would have been minus 250 range to miss the playoffs. Who knows if Lamar at that point says, yeah, Thursday night, let's salvage it. He maybe said, you know what, give me another week. Maybe. Instead, the Ravens are now, once again, favorites to win their division. Pittsburgh's loss, like you mentioned, we'll get into it. The disaster in Cincinnati, again, we'll get into it. But Baltimore, Joe, have completely saved any hope that they had in that building with their victory over the Chicago Bears, 30-16 final.
And it was surprising. We talked about it in the pregame prior, leading up to the game, that Baltimore went from a 6.5, 7-point favorite with Lamar Jackson potentially implemented in that lineup to with Snoop Huntley only a 2.5-point favorite over a very hot team in Chicago. Chicago had won 4 straight by 7.7 points per game leading into that matchup. On the flip side, Baltimore had lost 4 straight by 18.3 points per game. The offensive identity was a little bit tarnished because they couldn't run Derrick Henry each and every play, but they stepped up yesterday and on Sunday with a dynamic effort of $177 on the ground. Snoop Huntley added 53 yards. They averaged 5.1 yards per rush, and they basically contained Chicago's offense from a defensive perspective to hold Chicago to field goals and not touchdowns, and that's why they were able to pull it out.
They held them to 3 field goal attempts on their first 4 drives. 1 was missed. It allowed them to play from in front, which allowed Derrick Henry to get going and Tyler Huntley on the ground as well. They actually, like you said, they held them to, I believe, 4 overall field goal attempts. There was an interception in there for Caleb, which was very costly. It was a great play by Nate Wiggins. Truly for the Ravens, though, this one is less about evaluating the performance, and it's just the result. They could have won this game 47-46, 7-6, 30. It doesn't matter. It's now Lamar Jackson is set to return, and here's the run out. A Thursday night in Miami, at Minnesota, at Cleveland, home against the Jets, home against Cincinnati, home against Pittsburgh, at Cincinnati. Joe, it's on the board. They lay a touchdown in each of their next 7 games.
Right.
They might lay a touchdown. They're going to lay at least a field goal in 7 straight games.
Yeah, they have the spark plug that they needed, right? Get us a win, and then Lamar comes back, and everything will be fine. Now, that's easier said than done, right, even though the schedule lines up to your point where they'll be favorites in almost each and every game. But divisional games pose a problem, even though it's Cincinnati. Yeah. Joe Flacco's there. The Jets got their first win. You never know. They're putting up points. So here we go. I mean,
no.
And you said it in the pregame. You said it when we broke down the game, on Sunday, was, do we really believe that it's just, that Lamar's back and there's 10 game winning streak? Yeah, it's possible. But it's the NFL. You're going to get everybody's best shot coming forward, especially the divisional matchups where Cincinnati's fighting, Pittsburgh's fighting. It's not just a layup, but they're going to be in a position, barring any major injury, to potentially run the table. But again, we'll see how it plays out.
The bigger thing is, because you may be hearing them be like, well, then do they need a win if they're going to be favored in the next 7? I'm not saying they're going to win those games.
You need to stop the bleeding is what they needed to do.
That is 100% spot on. But look, they don't have a lot of breathing room, but now, instead of needing to go 7-0, you can go 6-1, feel probably really good about it. You might be able to go 5. If you go 5-2, you're 7-7 with 3 to play. You might need to win out. And that's not going to be easy because the last 3 are New England, at Green Bay, and at Pittsburgh. But it gives you a chance.
Right.
And that's what it salvaged the season for Baltimore. Now, for the Ravens, it's step 1 of the salvation. These are the Super Bowl favorites coming into the year. Making the playoffs is nothing to throw a parade over. There could still be jobs on the line and major offseason changes, but there's a bit of hope now, I believe, in that building. On the other side of the field, though, Joe, I don't really know what to do with Chicago. You're 4-3. You lost to Baltimore. It is what it is. You'd won 3 in a row, but I think deep down nobody felt like they were playing great football. A 1-point win to Vegas, a 1-point win to Washington, an uglier game against New Orleans. They're 4-3, so there's that. But the Bears' situation feels worse than their record, I would say.
Does it, though? I mean,
okay.
Just because their win total was 8.5. I think if you ask Bear fans, with the addition of Ben Johnson, it was playoffs or bust.
Yeah.
But realistically, first-year head coach, you have some growing pains, and that's 4-3 is acceptable as far as I'm concerned after basically 8 weeks of the regular season. I don't think it's a bad effort, especially when you started 0-2. You couldn't get some victories under your belt. You got blown out by Detroit. This team is much more competitive. Even though they didn't get the victory against Baltimore, they were still in a position to maybe pull it out in the fourth quarter, and that's all you could ask for. Again, I never expected this team to be an 11 or a 12-win football team. I think 9 was really the cusp of where, you could get with a first-year head coach, and because of where Caleb was with the development. But I'd be happy with this if I'm a Bear fan.
So, you know what? It's a good point, Joe. It's in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
But I guess I am more than on the side of the Bear fan, where your first 2 defeats were very upsetting. You choked one away against Minnesota. That should have never happened. And then the Lions dumped you on your head, picked you back up, and dumped you right back on that same head. And while they had the 4 straight wins, at no point did it didn't feel like, hey, we're watching one of the best teams in the league. It's like, hey, you're putting up results, but trend. And I think I go to some of your analysis heading into the game against Baltimore, where it's like, is Tyler Huntley that much of an upgrade over Cooper Rush, where this all of a sudden should be any different than what we had seen? And it was all of a sudden, Joe, very different. One thing you were bang on about, you're like, well, you're going to need Tyler Huntley to actually complete passes.
Right, and he did.
17 of 22 for him. I mean,
he couldn't do that with the Dolphins when he was there. I'm not sure what happened there.
He had a 90 QBR.
Yeah.
QBR's out of 100.
And he had it 53 on the ground. I mean, you're getting similar results on the ground to what Lamar gives you, and the completion percentage is well over 70%. Yeah. So that is a recipe to win, especially when you win the turnover battle.
And the Huntley performance shows that this isn't just a Caleb struggled thing. It's the Bears as a group really struggled within this football game. But for Chicago, year number 1, they were about picked to make the playoffs. Year number 2, slight dog to make the playoffs. So, again, you're right, Joe. Year 2 with Caleb, year number 1 with Ben Johnson. Let's not go crazy, but, the books aren't Chicago Bears fans. They're looking at the roster. They're looking at the schedule. There's opportunity there. Next week they play Cincinnati, who we're going to get into next. Good luck. Good luck. The game's a round pick. It's like a slight Bears favorite on the road. They are. That's why I say, Joe, if they were a good 4-3, you'd feel good about them. They'll bounce back in Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. But we'll see. I'll take the over.
All right. Let's get into Cincinnati, and maybe more importantly, their opponent, the red hot 1-0 in their last one. New York Jets finally get their first win. What does it mean? We'll tell you next.
Very young team outside of Durant. they're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I don't want people to stop discounting how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is, and I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think they're going to be better than people think, and I also think if that's the case, then I'm fading someone in that division. You know who I'm fading, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who have now cut 2 players this year so that they can bring back both Antetokounmpo to play with Giannis.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
People who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right. But there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customer.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
You check in with old K-Dubs. How did Sunday go? A lot of things went well. Sometimes, though, things go a little too well. I know this might sound like I'm patting myself on the back. I'm not. I'm just trying to say, as somebody who is invested in the Cincinnati Bengals winning the Super Bowl and has not given up on that proposition, I might have traded the plus 6.5 winner on the Jets for the Cincinnati Bengals actually holding on and winning this football game. Instead, this Jets march and comeback crossed the finish line and gave them their first win of the season. And Jets fans, I promise we will give you your due, but it's important to start with Cincinnati for this reason, Joe. They entered into this weekend with a real chance in the division. At 3-4, a win would have made them 4-4. And we haven't talked Pittsburgh yet, but we will. But, London is falling, if you will, in the Pittsburgh Steelers building, who are now a 4-3 football team who, in their next few games, are going to be booked as a dog in both before seeing Cincinnati again. The Ravens, I know, get their win. It gives them life, but you still are up on Baltimore, Joe, to give you a bit of confidence. For Cincinnati, I don't think you can. They didn't have enough breathing room. Hey, listen, it's a bad loss, but it's one loss. No. You are 3-5. Your quarterback is still Joe Flacco. There are no updates on Joe Burrow that suggest he's going to be back sooner than later, if at all. It feels to me, and you can tell me if I am overreacting, that Cincinnati's playoff hopes died on that Justin Fields comeback.
Well, yes, to a degree. I think, again, they still have a pulse because, again, they still have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and a competent quarterback. And it wasn't Flacco's fault. For the most part, he throws for 244, 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Chase with 91 receiving yards. It's a defense, Kev. I mean, they gave up over 450 total yards to the Jets. I mean, Justin Fields had one of his better performances, 240-plus through the air. The Jets rushed for 7 yards per carry, basically, over 200 yards. I mean, come on. I mean, this defense is atrocious. We knew that they were bad coming in. Yeah. And, again, unless they outscored teams, no lead is safe. And what would they have, 17-3, 24-13 lead in the second half, and they lose it 39-38? I mean, I will say the Jets have played some wild games. I mean, you want to. It's almost like a college team. Yeah. They make these second-half comebacks, like, out of nowhere.
I mean, Joe, the score was 31-16 in the fourth quarter. It was 38-24 with 10 minutes to go. quickly, for those of you who still wonder, why do teams go for 2 and they're down 14 on full display as it, gets the Jets this win? What is remarkable to your it's not on Joe Flacco point, which is fair, after still being down 1, 7-yard pass, 12-yard run, a minute remaining in the game, they're at their own 44. It's like, well, they're going to get a field goal kickoff, obviously. McPherson's pretty good. They picked up 1 more yard. Incomplete, 1-yard run, incomplete. It was
weird game.
Insane to me that they could not then pick up another first down against, let's be clear, a miserable Jets defense.
So you see that happen. We see it in the college game. Ole Miss, Georgia. Going up and down the field. The final drive, they're down 8. They can't convert a third down. I mean, it creeps into your psyche, I think, from a team perspective. You're leading the whole game. We're dominating. We're on life support now. We got to make a play now.
Right.
We dominated for 58 minutes. I think that's the mindset that goes into some of these games as they play out. And, credit Aaron Glenn, credit the Jets. They made some plays. They do have some nice playmakers. But, again, this was a game Cincinnati could have gotten back to 500.
Yes.
And a game that they should win.
Yes.
Against a dead football team.
And we're winning.
Right, but
massively.
Talking about a team that hasn't won a game.
I know.
And they couldn't knock them out. This was like, give them the standing 8. How many standing 8s did Aaron Glenn and the Jets have?
An in-game win probability at its highest of 97.5 for Cincinnati. Turns into a loss. And I know Trey Hendrickson injured in this game. It's unacceptable for the Bengals defense to go from really, really, really bad to absolutely lifeless just because one player is out. But it's how they built the roster, and it's just how everybody is playing. But again, it does feel for me like a done football team. I really, really believe that. Unless you promise that Joe Burrow will be back at basically the minimum, where they're like, he's going to miss 3 months. Like, hey, he is back actually on the 14th against Baltimore. 4 games. I can't see it for Cincy. For the Jets, though, they get this win. They finally get a win. It comes in the most absurd fashion of all time. Where Woody Johnson completely buries Justin Fields publicly. There's no other way to categorize it. They were going to give Tyrod the job, but then he was too injured to take it. And Fields goes out there, and he wasn't perfect, but he was good enough. It was a great comeback effort as a group. Breece Hall looked absolutely brilliant. It's nice to get one on the board. My guess is, on the drive over, I didn't pop on the New York, New Jersey radio. Maybe I should have. I imagine there are a lot of overreactions today about how the Jets are trending. I don't think they're trending anything. They are still awful.
Yeah, the defense is pathetic. And again, so you hire Aaron Glenn, who's a defensive supposed mastermind, and their best effort came in the 13-11 loss to the Denver Broncos in Europe. I mean, terrible. I mean, that's what you're dealing with. I mean, you have a defense potentially just as bad as Cincinnati's. I mean, every game they're getting lit up. I mean, they're not.
Defense is awful.
They're progressing offensively to a degree, and I think this is the quarterback I thought, and maybe I was wrong on Justin Fields, but that's the guy that I thought would step up, and they give him the reins a little bit more. But defensively, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
But that's so why I almost think there could be dangerous overreactions, because so they're on bye and then they play the Browns. I guarantee you Jets fans have already been like, I don't know, Browns, Falcons, Dolphins, Saints. This team get 5-6 wins.
I'm hoping.
Listen, but my thing is, I think that the message should still be the same. I think Breece Hall, you should take this game and trade. I don't think Breece Hall should put a Jets uniform on again. I'm sorry. Well, for what? For what? You're awful. You're an awful football team. You don't have a franchise quarterback in your building. You're bad. Fields isn't the guy. It was a nice moment, right? And maybe Justin Fields can have a nice career as a backup in this league. He can't be your week 1 starter. That's Woody Johnson's comments were inappropriate probably for an owner with the guy on the roster. They weren't wrong.
No.
Justin Fields isn't a franchise quarterback. We go to the final piece of this outrageous AFC North. The failing Pittsburgh Steelers and the impressive Green Bay Packers next.
very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I don't want people to stop discounting how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. And I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think they're going to be better than people think. And I also think if that's the case, then I'm fading someone in that division. You know who I'm fading, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who have now cut 2 players this year so that they can bring back both Antetokounmpo to play with Giannis.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right, but there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customer.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here on SportsGrid. It is Pro Football Today. Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi. And Joe, there are a few times this season where you and I have been aligned and it's worked out, which is nice to see. I don't want to overstate it because we know how the wind blows. That was how we felt heading into the Sunday night matchup against Green Bay and Pittsburgh. I even think there was a moment where you almost looked at me like, yeah, I like Green Bay too. It's like, oh, okay, that's how we're playing it. But all in all, the Steelers found themselves up 9 at the break and then got demolished.
Smoke and mirror.
The defense, here's the thing. I think a lot of people thought whenever the Steelers season starts to inevitably show that they're not that good, the arrow will be pointed towards Aaron Rodgers.
And Mike Tomlin.
Well, no. But I thought it was going to be pointed towards Rodgers.
Okay.
Flatly. The defense is bad. And, man, listen. I know if everyone has said for years if Tomlin's fired, he'll be hired in 2 seconds. And I get all of that, right? But just what is he doing right now to set this team up for success? I mean, it's the highest paid defense in football, and they're awful. Is every contract bad?
No.
I don't understand. Because, Joe, they went touchdown, field goal, and then they ended the game, right? They took their knees, Green Bay. Jordan Love, I think, had 2-3 incompletions in the whole second half.
20 straight or 21 straight?
Yes. I mean, threw for 360, 3 touchdowns. He was dominant. I mean, he's absolutely dominant against Pittsburgh. We can get to the Packers, but for the Steelers,
right,
as always, they're done. Maybe they'll be 9-8. Maybe they'll be 8-9. If they make the playoffs, they're an absolute layup. They'll get steamrolled by a real team. It's the same team every year for almost a decade now. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they got exposed by a better team. The perception on Pittsburgh is absolutely like you're talking about Mike Tyson back in the heyday. And that's the way we view the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. Like this, they are this dominant team offensively and defensively, and now that big bad Aaron Rodgers is under center, it's Super Bowl or bust. No. They got exposed in week 1 by the New York Jets, and it just took a couple of games and back-to-back losses now to realize they're a 500 football team. What do they have? 8 players over the age of 30? T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Jalen Ramsey, just to name a few? I mean, this is an old defense, and they were exposed last year. They have no offensive identity for the most part. One day they run, the next day if they meet a bad defense, Rodgers could have success a la against Cincinnati, but they still lost. And when you look at Green Bay in this matchup, we had talked about it again in the pregame. Green Bay had lost or didn't cover in 4 straight. This was the perfect opponent to get right with because from an offense and a defensive line perspective, they manhandled Pittsburgh on Sunday night. And that was the difference. Pittsburgh is a one-trick pony. That when they get out ahead for the most part, they can dominate or win games. But you force them to play from behind like they were in the second half, they're done.
The Steelers are barreling towards their 8th consecutive season without a playoff win.
I'll say this right now. I'm willing to bet at 4-3. This is the 1 year under 500 for Tom. I'm willing. I said it at the start of the year, and I'm not backing down. This team is pedestrian. They are not good. They are not good.
Win total in the market is 8.5, minus 120 to the under. So, but again, you see that the books are not covering this team with a load of confidence. And then, so, I talk about this. Here's why Cincinnati blew an opportunity and why Baltimore is booked as a favorite. Next 2 are home against Indianapolis. They're booked as a dog, and then they go to L.A. to play the Chargers. They'll be booked as a dog as well. You can do a little bit of a run out from there. Cincy, Chicago, Buffalo, Baltimore. I mean, there's a couple of spots on here for this team to handle business, but let's be very clear. The Thursday night game against Cincinnati was supposed to be a spot to handle business, and they didn't. Because every year they have a game that lets you know this team is to not be taken serious, and that is exactly what they are. The Packers are a completely different story, though. The Packers are to be taken serious. A lot of people say the Lions are better than them. The Lions are power rated. How? The Lions have more losses, and they played head-to-head. I remember it. I don't know if everybody else does. Jordan Love is live in the MVP race. Now, when I say they're legit, I mean win a division, compete for a 1 seed. They're still, how does their season end differences that I'll probably have with others. But I think the Green Bay Packers are comfortably one of the 5 best teams in the league. I can't imagine anybody would disagree with that.
No, and they showcased that with Micah Parsons. That defense is aggressive, opportunistic, and the offensive line's legit. I'm telling you.
Yeah, this is a Green Bay group who it'll be very interesting to see, though, if they can maintain that level. I think that's always the challenge because the top of the NFC is going to be crowded, and it includes the Philadelphia Eagles, who got back to their old ways against the Giants. We'll break that down next.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I don't want people to stop discounting how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. And I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think they're going to be better than people think. And I also think if that's the case, then I'm fading someone in that division. You know who I'm fading, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who have now cut 2 players this year so that they can bring back both Antetokounmpo to play with Giannis.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
People who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right. But there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customer.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Back right here, it is Pro Football Today, and we've talked through a number of games that really shifted things around the AFC North specifically. The Packers, though, Joe, look to make a statement that they belong at the top of the NFC outright market. There's a case to be made, though I think in the way people talk about things running through KC in the AFC, there should be a similar respect given to the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC. But again, I know that there are some of you out there who still don't understand the most unbiased man in the history of sports media. So take it from the biggest Eagles backer actually on the desk, which is my good buddy Joe Lisi.
Yeah, Billy Club special. That's what I expected against the New York Giants, and the defense came to play. And I know some questionable calls in the matchup, but there was no answer for Philly's offense from the defense of the New York Giants. They were a beaten-down football team based off the loss to Denver the week prior. They allowed 33 points in a monumental loss. And again, they moved the football early. They were down 14-7. You have the emotional loss of Cam Scatterboo, but Jalen Hurts and that offense stepped up yet again. We saw now the rushing attack minus Cam Jurgens in the offensive line all of a sudden come to life. Dallas Goedert took over from A.J. Brown, 2 touchdowns. I mean, what more? It was a complete effort offensively and defensively. And anybody suggesting that Philadelphia, wasn't the team to beat just because they lost to the New York Giants, again, expecting a team to go 17-0 in the regular season, just not going to happen in today's NFL. But this is still the most complete team that we see on paper. When the chips are in the middle of the table, and we're not talking November, we're talking January and potentially February, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are getting my money.
Yeah, I think the reality for Philadelphia is in that game they put on display the best version of themselves.
It was a 4-quarter effort.
It's when Saquon Barkley has it going. First carry of the game, 65-yard touchdown, and it continued that way. Saquon kept running well, though did get banged up on his final carry. So then they just handed it over to Tank Bigsby, who ended up finishing the game with 9 carries for 104 yards and actually a higher yards per carry in the matchup, amazingly, than Saquon. And for Philadelphia, the defense did enough. They started to get after Jackson Dart. But, Joe, I think the story can't be Jalen Hurts only when it's bad. Jalen Hurts is right now playing like arguably the best quarterback in football. Since week number 3, nobody has more passing touchdowns, so surprise, surprise, nobody has more total touchdowns. In fact, on the year, no one has more total touchdowns. He has 1 interception. Since week 3 began, he has the second best passer rating in football, only behind Drake May. He has been dominant. And a lot of people felt that, well, it's all the setup, it's all the situation. Under the radar, the Cam Jurgens injury, but also, massively understood was no A.J. Brown. No problem. Devonta Smith ate well. Hurts continue to dominate. To me, Joe, you go through the league's MVP right now, Jalen Hurts is a clear-cut top 5 candidate, if not arguably the correct answer to that award.
Yeah. I mean, and he's doing it with his arm. You can't complain that he's a running quarterback this year because his running totals are significantly down and everything is a dominant performance through the air. Look at the matchup against Minnesota. 283, hits Devontae Smith, hits A.J. Brown. And what goes unnoticed, too, is when we've seen 2 critical third downs in big games. The Minnesota game, where he completes the big play, and I believe it was I think it was the Ram game.
Yeah.
One of the 2 where I have to look, but he just makes plays that you say that's the guy. If it was Mahomes, they'd be like, oh, my God, Mahomes.
Here's my thing, and I do hate to do it, but, There isn't a stat you can find that says Baker Mayfield is having a better season. There isn't one. There's just not. I'm sorry.
Baker's fell off in back-to-back weeks.
Jared Goff, again, give your head a shake. He's not a real candidate. He's not. Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor with shorter odds than him. That's la-la land. We'll get into the Colts, and I'm going to say a lot of good things about Indianapolis. The MVP market, though, is not where that team is going to live. It's just not. I mean, it's where things are. And again, if places want to spend countless segments and hours debating if Jalen Hurts is holding Philadelphia back, can they win with Jalen Hurts despite being the reigning Super Bowl MVP, then make sure you give him his due. Let's talk, though, Joe, about the reigning MVP. Because it wasn't just Philadelphia who got themselves a big-time dominant win. The Buffalo Bills dominated the Carolina Panthers. And I know it would be easy to say, but it's Carolina. The Panthers had been playing some decent football. They'd been perfect at home on the year. And both sides of the ball, it was a calm effort for Buffalo. And Josh didn't even play well. That's about as low as a QBR you're going to find in a Josh Allen game where this team goes out there and looks like that.
Yeah.
They scored 40 points. He had a 46.2 QBR. James Cook ran for 216. Again, he doesn't get enough talk in the I mean, my goodness. He doesn't get enough talk in that OPOY conversation. I mean, really, this was a start-to-finish dominant Buffalo Bills effort.
Yeah, and they got after it on the defensive side of the ball, Andy Dalton and that offense for Carolina. But again, this is what you expected. The team had lost 2 straight. You say, okay, coming out of a bye week, can we get some mojo for Buffalo and this team as a whole? And they showcased that.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen, when the chips were in the middle of the table and they were up only 12-3, he hits the big play, and all of a sudden they're on. Coming out of the half, Shakir with a big touchdown catch. I mean, everything worked out what you would expect from this team. And now if they could play like that in the second half of the season, then they're going to be there as potentially the team to beat in the AFC coming into the playoffs. But again, we'll see. Can they maintain this from week to week? And then potentially, if they face Kansas City in a playoff environment, play like that defensively.
So I think the reality for Buffalo, so next week they play KC. That is a big spot because
it's a gauge.
Well, yeah, because look, you go through the Bills' resume.
Yeah.
Right? We do this college football style, Joe. They're last year's Indiana. That's what they are. Except they have one of the 3 best quarterbacks in football leading the charge, so it's given a lot more grace. Because it's, well, don't worry, at some point Josh will be great, and then everything will be fine. Except Josh has been great, and things haven't been fine year in and year out, right? When we talk about meeting the level. This is a team who spent weeks as the Super Bowl favorite just to watch it collapse and finds themselves in a divisional race. Let's be very clear, right? We've spent multiple and understandably, segments talking about Kansas City and the challenges that they're going to have in that AFC West just because Denver keeps stacking wins and LA's been able to stack some wins. The New England Patriots don't feel like they're going anywhere because the Bills having an easy schedule, that tune is no different for the Pats. The schedules are very similar. So a lot of it's going to come down to head-to-heads. Well, bad news, Buffalo. You already gave up one, and it was in your building. So every single time the Buffalo Bills play a good team, that is uber important. But due to how they entered the bye, they needed something that looked like what it looked like against Carolina.
Yes, but if we were using the game against Kansas City as a gauge, you would almost, if you're a Buffalo Bill fan, want to lose that game in the regular season because you dominate.
Damn if you do, damn if you don't. No, they are.
Because if they dominate, they always dominate them in the regular season.
Yeah.
It's what have you done for me lately in January and February, and that's where Pat Mahomes owns Josh Allen, and Josh Allen can't build his legacy as an elite quarterback until he gets over the hump and he gets to a Super Bowl. It's the same question that we could say about Jalen, but Jalen answered the bell. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he's an MVP. Until you do it when it matters, talk is cheap. Great, you do it in the regular season, but if you have to do it again, that's how the Bills will be judged.
100%. I mean, it's interesting is and we know people who know the Bills well, and there is this desire actually to lose this game. Like, let's reverse it.
Yeah.
I go the other one. I just think it's inevitable, but also I don't think the goal is to lose to them more frequently. That's at least my gauge on it. Here's the deal, though. This isn't Allen's or Mahomes' conference anymore. Shout out Daniel Jones, am I right? We'll talk about it next.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I don't want people to stop discounting how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. And I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think they're going to be better than people think. And I also think if that's the case, then I'm fading someone in that division. You know who I'm fading, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who have now cut 2 players this year so that they can bring back both Antetokounmpo to play with Giannis.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
People who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right. But there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customer.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Back to the right here. It is Pro Football Today. It's Kevin Walsh, Joe Lisi. It's time to talk some Indianapolis Colts. A 7-1 football team with the best record in the league win in dominant fashion again. 38-14, they beat the Tennessee Titans. And I am sure some of you out there, if you're a Colts backer, a Colts fan, if you're a Daniel Jones guy, maybe you're saying, is it time for K-Dub to admit that this team is awesome, that Daniel Jones is awesome? Maybe.
Really?
But I want you to go first. Because I, of course, have my thoughts. But I'd like to get a gauge on where you're at on this Indianapolis crew, who you were high on coming into the year. You thought Daniel Jones was clearly the guy.
I did. I thought he gave them the best shot to get to a playoff, and he has shown that right now. Yep. AR was not the answer, and as much as I love the athleticism, the instability and the inconsistency in the passing attack was a key weakness of why this team would not get to a playoff. They had to make a change, and they did and made the proper decision with Daniel Jones. But this offense is still predicated on Jonathan Taylor and the rushing attack. And when he rushes for over 100 yards and you build a lead, that's all you can ask for. You needed somebody that could be basically that point guard. Get the football to Pittman. Get the football to Josh Downs and Alec Pierce in the passing attack and work off of play action. Limit turnovers. And that was easier said than done in New York where the offensive line was atrocious. But Steichen is a better head coach than Brian Dable, and they put him in a position to win games. Are they all of a sudden now, if in a playoff setting, would I take the Colts potentially to go to the AFC Championship and win it? No, but I think they can make a pretty good run.
So here's where I'm at. They're 7-1. And you have to give a team credit for dominating a bad opponent. You do. And Indianapolis has not taken any prisoners when they get a bad team. They have played 6 or 5, I think it's 5 awful teams. They've already played the Titans twice, the lifeless Miami Dolphins, the lifeless Las Vegas Raiders, and Jacoby Brissett came in there and gave them a bit of a scare with Arizona. I'm sorry, there's just nothing I can do with those games. I can't.
Okay. But are they the Vikings with Sam Darnold?
So that's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
So the 3 games that feel relevant, a close 1-point win at home against Denver. If not for a penalty, that's a 2-point loss. A close loss on the road against the LA Rams. Could have won the game, didn't. And a dominant win against the LA Chargers on the road, though apparently the Chargers, with Joe Alt, good at football. Without Joe Alt, worst team in the league, right? There's some gauge of that. So when I look at Indianapolis, what I see is a team that's very clearly going to be in the playoffs, a team that can absolutely beat up an undermanned opponent, but similar to Sam Darnold's Minnesota Vikings, when it comes time, and if they're and they're across the field from a team that I fully believe in the AFC, then I'm likely to go against them. And I think for the Colts, when you are 7-1, right, we don't judge it of like, oh, scrappy underdog. No, like if you want to be measured like, hey, should Indianapolis be booked as the favorites to win the AFC? Right? Like that's what we're trying to figure out. I don't believe that is the case. I don't think, and they're not, right? Do I have a problem with them being booked third, though? I don't.
No.
The AFC is a mess. Let's be very clear about that. The Baltimore Ravens were the favorite all offseason. They're 2-5. The Chiefs are the most dominant team in the conference. They're not even in the playoffs if the season ended today. We just talked the whole thing about how Buffalo's season's been weird. It is a bizarre year right now for the AFC.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I am giving the Colts I said this, the most respect I've given the Colts all year. I didn't take the 14.5 with Tennessee. I couldn't do it.
I almost did.
But I am not picking this team to win the AFC as of today. And, Joe, I would be surprised if at any point that changed throughout the season.
Yes, but in a playoff scenario, and that's where they're trending, anything could happen. Are they worth the lottery ticket potentially?
That's the problem. They're not that anymore.
But because they're 7-1.
If you're holding an off-season number, awesome.
Right.
But, Joe, would you bet this team at under 5-1 to win this conference?
No. I would even argue that potentially if they faced, let's just say, the Chargers in a playoff situation, they might be underdogs.
No, because I think the game would be in Indianapolis.
They might be 3-point favorites.
Yeah.
Herbert hasn't won a playoff game.
Sure
Daniel Jones at least has one under his belt.
Let me say this as well just quickly, because I know I mentioned, the Taylor Jones MVP market. I think this stuff is, by the way, very, very clear. I don't think this is a slight at all. If you take it as such, listen to this back and then see if you really take it as such. There is no MVP candidate on this team. Jonathan Taylor is a running back. Stop this nonsense, okay? That stuff has always been ridiculous. It continues to be ridiculous. He's a massive Offensive Player of the Year favorite and deserves such award. Deserves the award. Shane Steichen is very close to becoming a minus money favorite to win Coach of the Year and deserves that award. That is where the Indianapolis Colts are set to clean up, and I don't think it is any more complicated than that. If this team, you cannot have the MVP, the Offensive Player of the Year, and the Coach of the Year. That does not make any sense. How is that?
Well, it's only week 8.
I understand that. I understand that. But when we're evaluating the market, Joe, right? We're talking MVP or we're talking Offensive Player of the Year. We're talking Coach of the Year is a market. I scroll to, I see the Steichen number, and I go off. I don't want a lottery ticket somewhere else. Steichen is set up to win that award unanimously.
No, it's like Kevin O'Connell was. With the Sam Darnold, it's cookie cutter in that.
Now, I think Taylor could be moved a little bit because there are some guys who are going to chase history. Now, and so is he himself with 12 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns in 8 weeks already, and 14 total. But Jamar Chase has a chance at the first ever 150 reception season. Jackson Smith-Njigba has a chance at the first 2,000-yard receiving yard season. So Taylor is a rightful big favorite. He's not out of the woods yet, though.
No, he's not. But I'll just say this. He's the most important player on that team right now. Like, for them, he's
the most prolific player on that team. Here's the reality, though, Joe, right?
They need him to make a playoff run.
I understand that. But my point is, if tomorrow I said, hey, Daniel Jones is going to retire, they're putting Richardson back in. Jonathan Taylor's still there. Anything to worry about? Yeah, a lot of things to worry
Well,
about,
you're
right?
talking about a guy that can't even complete 3 passes. I mean, come on, it's a big difference.
Listen. That's why it's very hard to justify a running back winning MVP. We'll do your primetime preview next. We're with you right here on Pro Football Today.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I don't want people to stop discounting how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. And I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think they're going to be better than people think. And I also think if that's the case, then I'm fading someone in that division. You know who I'm fading, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who have now cut 2 players this year so that they can bring back both Antetokounmpo to play with Giannis.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right. But there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customer.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Primetime preview, Pro Football Today. Kevin Walsh, Joe Lisi. Joe, just quickly, because we got to, I think, almost every big game. There was one thing I wanted to just quickly say. Is the Dallas defense the worst defense you've ever seen?
One of.
My God.
One.
Man.
Cincinnati or Dallas
gosh.
have to be. I mean, you can never bet an under with Dallas'
I said
defense.
it to you, though.
I know.
I said, Joe,
I know.
I go, I want to bet under, but I can't get a read on these totals. It's
you
every
blinked,
week.
they had 30 points. I mean, it was crazy.
You could have played I think the Cowboys team total, by the way, is like 23.5. Joey Milton comes in, slips that over the number, gets them to 24.
Jersey
also,
Joe Milton.
Yes. I'll just say this, and then we'll get to the game. For all that Dak Prescott love, cut it out. Pressure-free Prescott. Every single time they have a chance to enter a new stratosphere, he goes, whoa! No touchdowns, 2 picks. Awful in this football game.
They were exposed by a defense that came to play, and we talked about that defense in Denver waking up when it mattered, and the game was on the line against the Giants.
Because if they won this game, then people would have started talking playoffs in Dallas, and now that's done.
And we got a 500. You got basically their win total was 6.5, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you have, a 7-win football team.
Yeah.
Can't run the football consistently. Javonte Williams was calling out his former team. How crazy was
RJ
that?
Harvey's lighting it up.
Incredible.
Mike McDaniel extension, big win.
I said I had concerns about Cousins starting that game.
Yeah, you did.
I said I can't get behind it in any capacity.
I didn't lay it.
He hasn't played in football in basically a year.
He hasn't played football since he got injured in Minnesota. I don't know what's going on with that guy. Chiefs Commanders, double-digit number.
Juicy.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa.
They're very.
Marcus Mariota.
Love him.
Here's my question to you. What do you think the spread would be if Jaden Daniels didn't get injured against Dallas?
7.5.
Gosh, would it?
No?
I thought it would. I would.
What do you think? 4?
Here's the thing.
Come on.
Let me just say, I'm just gonna say this. I think it would be under a touchdown. Me, which is one of the reasons I like Washington tonight. Because
I think it would be right on the keyed number, 7.5.
I'll just tell you this. I'd like to live in an alternate timeline then where he's healthy for this game and we get 7.5. He'd cover that number with his eyes closed. against Kansas City. Jaden Daniels, 7.5. Anytime I get Jaden Daniels at 7.5, I might have to take it.
Whoa, clip that.
Well, just unless it's, of course.
Whoa,
unless,
you
hold
got
on,
fever?
just answer
What
this
happened?
part. Unless it's a really big game in which he's going to get outplayed by the opposing quarterback every single time. 10.5, though, for Marcus Mariota, that feels a little too many.
It does. Again, I still, it's a must-win game, I believe, for the Commanders. Their pitiful performance a couple weeks ago.
You think they're barking? You think?
I think they're alive.
Whoa.
I do.
Whoa.
Again, you get blown out by Dallas. You lose to Chicago. You have no real consistency right now. You got to get back into the wild card picture. Your defense is terrible. It's expected that Mahomes is just going to throw for 330 and 3 touchdowns, especially with Rashee Rice back in the lineup. They dominated Las Vegas. Again, I get it.
they dominated Las Vegas.
But
who bet the Raiders in that game?
We did. But I still think Washington, with McLaurin coming back, you got Debo, and I think Mariota, a veteran on the road, can make enough plays where, again, I think they'll be within margin, and I expect Mariota to hit pay dirt tonight.
Here's the deal.
Plus 320.
Here's the deal. I took the Raiders against Kansas City. I know. We talked about it. It was around the same number. That Raiders team is lifeless. Crosby got injured in-game. They quit. I think the Commanders are much better defensively than what they showed in that game against Dallas. Debo back. McLaurin back. We have seen Mariota step in a few times for Jaden Daniels and be very good.
Yes.
So I have no reason to think he won't be very good. But I'm going to bring up something that I thought might matter against Vegas. It did not, but I think it's gotten worse. And it's the Josh Simmons absence. Josh Simmons, the first-round left tackle out of Ohio State, was playing well for Kansas City. Now, I know that the backup came in and played well against Detroit, and they felt that was solid. But to me, I think you may only be able to survive on that for so long. Why I say it gets worse. Trey Smith is doubtful for this game, one of the best guards in the league. We have seen all of a sudden Mahomes gets behind a substandard offensive line. Nothing's his fault. Everything looks bad. That, again, is a recipe to me to stay well within this number. I understand I was wrong in the spot against Vegas. Maybe I'm going to find out I'm reading Kansas City games bad tonight. I don't think so. I'm with you, Joe, all about the Commanders. Any props you want to look at here before we get out of here?
Marquise Brown, I mean, another light number. I know what Rice coming back, but they keep pricing him 30s. I mean, 40, 50 plus, he's a home run hitter.
The Rice stuff, though, is very tempting to me.
I can't load up on the number ones. I just can't do it.
I understand that, Joe, but like 10 targets in the first game back. We get a depressed number because a lot of the stuff was short. It's
I
hard.
like Brown.
I also tend to think Terry McLaurin in his first real game back could have himself a couple of deep shots to get him through some numbers. For Joe Lisi, I'm Kevin Walsh. That is Pro Football Today on SportsGrid.
You see Texas in any game, and again, Kentucky used to be able to put up points in the past. 43.5 is crazy because it just feels like Texas is going to come in, play really good defense, and try to squeeze this game out. It'll be interesting to see because nothing got ailed from that victory last week. Texas is back. I'm just being facetious at this point, but if we see one of those performances, 17-14 Texas
in the fourth quarter,
yeah, come on,
right? I mean, really, I mean, they got a gift last week.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It looks like the Bengals fantasy pieces are back. What did you make of that Joe Flacco performance on Thursday night? Turning back time.
Yeah, it was great for a guy like me with gray in the beard. I love seeing it. I love my representation. But at the end of the day, just from a wagering standpoint, if this continues, it'll give some consistency and it'll give some value back to those tools that you were mentioning on the Bengals.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Defense is above average this year, and I think big picture they're going to be probably the most consistent moving forward. The problem I have is this guy, Trevor Lawrence, big picture. You got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly sometimes is real ugly. He is not comfortable in the pocket on a consistent basis, and that's a problem.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.